Woohoo! I am right on time, and for me that is humongous. Okay, so I am not going to get started right away. I know there's a couple people that plan on hopping on, and I also want to get my notes because I have a ton of information to cover with you guys today. I have to make sure that I stay on track too. So if I happen to, I might actually move the comments away because I don't want to see them because I have like total squirrel syndrome and I'll get distracted by the comments. So I'm going to try to stay focused and I'm going to try to get through all of this. I have literally like 4 pages of notes just for today. And I am so excited. There's a little over 150 people in this group. You guys have done an awesome job of sharing it and getting the word out. I have people in here that I've worked with before. I have people in here that I haven't worked with. I don't even know, so I'm super excited. The biggest goal of this is obviously to just get the information out as best as I possibly can to as many people as I possibly can and just start this trend of healing instead of everybody being sick right now. So I'm going to give it a couple more minutes for people to hop on. And I got my notes, I got my water, because I'm going to need it. Who's on? Let's see. Hi, Nikki. Stranger, long time no see. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you guys are watching this recorded, which I know that it's not going to be convenient for everybody, so it doesn't necessarily matter if it's live or not. But if you're watching this recorded and you already know me, I won't be offended at all if you skip through the introduction because you already know my story, you already know who I am. But I'm just going to start with my background because I want you guys to understand who I am, what I do, and how I've been able to help people throughout the years. When I was 12, I broke my kneecap. I had surgery, had a horrible surgery, and I had really bad restrictions for 13 years because of it. And I hired a trainer at age 13. My dad hired me a trainer and I started working out and I started lifting, and that was really the only thing that I could do. It took me out of 4 sports. I couldn't run, I couldn't jump, all that stuff. So I knew I wanted to be a trainer. I went to Arizona State for exercise science and kinesiology. After that, I got certified through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. I started with their Certified Personal Trainer cert. They're one of the most recognized certifications in the country right now. And then at the gym, in order for me to be a higher level trainer, I had to get an advanced certification. And so I actually went with corrective exercise. And that opened up a whole new door for me because nobody was doing it. But corrective exercise is a way of preventing an injury and also rehabbing injury. So I was able to take these clients that had been working with personal trainers and fix them so that they could continue to work out. In 2012, I started my own business, Corrective Exercise of Arizona, and I was a trainer specifically focused on corrective exercise and rehabilitation. So I had chiropractors sending me people, physical therapists, massage therapists, personal trainers, boot camp instructors, coaches, you name it. So I've run a successful business out for the last 5 years focusing solely on corrective exercise and healing the physical body. But 2 years ago, I felt very drained, I guess. I felt unfulfilled with what I was doing. It wasn't challenging anymore. I can walk behind somebody and I can tell them 10 injuries they're at risk for, and I can tell you 5 different ways to fix it. And it wasn't challenging. And what I noticed about my clients was that I could get 80% of them better, but there were certain percent of people that weren't getting better. Even though on paper they looked great, range of motion was awesome, strength was perfect, but they weren't getting any better. So about 2 years ago, I started looking into how emotions manifest physically and how people's joint pain, muscle pain, can actually be from a trapped emotion. And so I started looking into biofeedback. It's called quantum biofeedback, and this is an energetic frequency healing system. Biofeedback as a term is really any sort of technique where you ask the body a question and you receive an answer. So it could be applied kinesiology. You could even do like muscle testing, pendulums. That's all a form of biofeedback, Reiki. However, the system that I use is actually called the Life System, and it can test over 10,000 frequencies. So not only can it test for repressed emotions, stored emotions, past life emotional conflicts, but it can also check organs, blocked chakras, blocked acumeridians. It can check your aura. It can check viruses, bacteria, heavy metals, radiation, toxicity levels, hormones. I mean, you name it, the system has everything. It was almost $20,000. And so I incorporated that into my business in 2014. And that literally changed the course of what I've been doing. And it was about that same time that I had realized that everything that I was doing from a physical perspective was trivial compared to all of the other stuff that I had to start working on. So about 2 years ago is when I started researching into all the stuff that I'm going to be sharing with you, and it was because of my own struggle and my own journey. So that brings me to where I am today. I'm a spiritual integrative health coach. I work on, the emotional aspect, the spiritual aspect, as well as the physical aspect, because I believe that they're all connected. So until we heal the emotional part, or until we heal the soul, your body is never going to heal completely. So with that said, I am definitely going to do a disclaimer. I'm going to do a disclaimer at the beginning of every video, but I want you guys to know that I am not a doctor, did not go to school for medicine, did not study medicine. I am not a nurse practitioner. I'm not a licensed practitioner. I am a mother of 2 boys. I have successfully run my own business for the last 5 years, helping hundreds, maybe even thousands of people from pain, inflammation, chronic pain, anxiety, depression, you name it. But I want you guys to understand that I am no different than any of you, okay? I went through the same things that you guys are going through. I posted those symptoms because I've had those symptoms, and I'm through that. So I want you guys to understand that I don't claim to be a doctor. I'm definitely not going to say that I can cure or get rid of any of your diseases, but I want you guys to be aware of the information that I had without having to do the runaround between the homeopaths and the doctors and the hormone specialists to try to figure out what's wrong with you. With corrective exercise, everybody always said, and this is why chiropractors and other doctors referred to me, but I get to the root of the problem. I'm never just going to address your symptom. I'm never just going to say, oh, well, you have back pain, let me treat your back. It's not about your back. It's about your feet or your shoulders or your hip flexors. So the same thing goes for all of these mystery illnesses. These mystery illnesses aren't just hormone imbalance. Okay, well, where does the hormone imbalance come from? Why are my hormones imbalanced? It's not just, this autoimmune disorder. Your body's attacking yourself. Your body is never going to attack itself. Its main goal is survival. That's just silly to me. So I want you guys to know that I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be a doctor. I can't cure you or your illnesses, but I want to give you the information so that you can help yourself learn and grow without the struggles that I had to deal with. And I'm sure that a lot of you have probably already gone through some of the same stuff that I went through. So I feel for you. I've been there. I've been in your shoes. I love you all, and I want you all to heal as I have healed. And I'm still healing, and it's a process, but it's never going to be perfect, but you can continuously get better instead of continuously get worse if you have the right information. So I'm going to go ahead and start with diseases and symptoms. Now, I've posted a lot of these already, and a lot of you guys were like, thank you so much for this course. I have 80% of these. So we're going to talk in this class, we're going to talk about a lot of information, and I broke it down into the days because I want you guys, I don't want it to be too overwhelming. And I have so much information inside my head. I was like, I had to write notes and take them down and make sure I keep them with me because I have to stay on track. So we are going to talk about everything from leaky gut, anxiety, depression, brain fog, memory loss, confusion, autoimmune disorders like lupus, Hashimoto's, thyroiditis. We're going to talk about tonsillitis, sinusitis, SIBO, gut infections, gut bacteria, constipation, diarrhea, headaches, migraines, hot flashes, insomnia, you name it, we are going to be talking about it in this course. And I don't know if it's good that I get really excited about it, but I really want you guys to know how important it is that you guys understand this information. So I want to start with, and if you guys are watching, feel free to, and if you're comfortable, feel free to post anything that you've been experiencing, if you've been diagnosed with a certain condition. I don't see doctors, so I was never really diagnosed with anything. I had a couple people say, well, you lean more towards the Hashimoto's, but I've always been very cautious about my diet, about supplements that I'm taking, about toxins. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't put anything negative inside my body. So I think that probably kept it at bay. But I want to start first by talking about how it affects our lifestyle. And there are so many ways that it affects us, and we don't even realize how it's affecting us until we crash or until we get the diagnosis that, is life or death. It's like, oh my gosh, I just got diagnosed with, Hashimoto's or whatever the case may be. So the first thing, and I think the one that hits home the most, is the inability to be the caretaker and be a mother for your children while you are suffering from a mystery illness. Now, I know firsthand what it's like to be completely exhausted, that you can't play with your kids because you don't even have the energy. I remember laying on the couch feeling like I got hit by a bus, like that, almost like you're sick, you can't move, you can't wake up, you're just exhausted, your body hurts, like nothing wants to work properly. And it sucks because you sit there and you're watching your kids and you want to play with them. You genuinely want to play with them, but your body is just not responding. And we force it to, and we force it to do these things. We have to cook dinner, we have to go grow, we have to do all these things, and we're living in this chronic state of exhaustion. It's affecting our children and the way that we can that we can caretake, or be able to provide for them and be a positive example and a positive role model. Our moods change. We yell at them over silly things. We get upset over nothing. It affects our relationships, our marriage, our sex drive goes completely away. Your body's in survival mode. We're just trying to live. The last thing we want to do is try to make a baby, right? Okay. Our relationships with our spouse, being oversensitive to criticism, having poor body image issues, your confidence, your mood, your fatigue. I mean, everything that you feel, your spouse is going to feel too. When I talk about body image, a lot of times with these mystery illnesses, our bodies don't metabolize properly. Either our liver is stagnant, or our metabolism isn't functioning, or our hormones are imbalanced. And so our bodies, we gain weight maybe from having a baby, and that's what set off your mystery illness. But then we're not able to bounce back like we could, because we've got, like I said, our body is in survival mode. It's just fighting to live, let alone lose weight. I mean, you can't add one more thing on top of all the things that it's trying to balance right now. So we end up having poor self-esteem and low confidence, which can affect our relationship with our spouse. It can also be a bad example for our children. So you tend to think, what's wrong with me? Why can't I lose weight? And then that spirals into the excessive working out, excessive dieting, which is even more taxing on your body. So and we'll talk about it in, I think it's tomorrow's video, but we're going to talk about working out excessively and how it can actually do more damage to your body if you're already in a mystery illness or a sickness state. We talked about being a role model for your children, being able to show up for them, being emotionally present for your children. Okay. The home life, this is another thing that I get a lot of, is that people say, as far as we're going to talk about mental illnesses too, but as far as the depression, and I also think, lack of motivation comes in there too, because I've had so many women say, my house is a mess, I can't keep up, I have a ton of laundry that I need to do, and you just have no desire, you have no motivation to do it, you have no energy to do it. All your body has energy for is to just lay in bed, or lay on the couch, or just barely get by. I mean, that's the state that we're living in, is we are just barely getting by. And then when we're exhausted and we have all these things to do and we don't want to do them, we make poor food choices. We make our kids macaroni and cheese or hot dogs because that's all we have the energy for. We don't have the energy to, make our own almond milk and prepare these 5-course meals for our family. Not like I would ever do that. Anyway, I'm not an awesome cook, but I get by. So you have no motivation, and that can lead to, arguments with your spouse. It can lead to feelings of guilt because you're not contributing. It can lead to all these other emotional aspects that contribute to the stress and the mystery illness. The emotional aspect of it, this one is common. I hear this a lot too. But when we're in that survival state, and when we're in that fight or flight mode, we tend to question our environment because we're miserable, we're tired, we're fatigued, our body is exhausted, our body is healing, I keep going back to this term, but our body is in survival mode. So we question our relationship. We question, is this right for me? Is he doing what he can for me? Do I really love him? You know, is this how it's supposed to be? You know, I feel like it should be better. And it's not always necessarily your environment. A lot of the times it's your mindset, and our brains, our nervous system is failing us. And it's not any fault of our own. It's the quality of the food nowadays, and the crap that's in the air, and the crap that's in our water, and it's all contributing to that. We tend to beat ourselves up over, again, like I said, not looking good enough, not being able to lose the weight that we want, working out excessively. We have so much negative self-talk around this illness and this disorder. Just imagine if you guys felt 100%, if you felt 80% better than you feel now, all of that negative self-talk that you deal with on a daily basis would be gone. Imagine. And here's the thing too, and this is going to be part of, maybe I won't get to in this course, but I definitely have another one planned. But the whole mindset around your emotions and your self-talk and your sickness, because pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And we make the choice to suffer and to feel bad for ourselves and to say, well, I can't do this because of this, and oh, poor me, pity party. I've done that. I've been there. But catching yourself in the negative self-talk and catching yourself in a state that's going to keep you in those low vibrations is just as important to healing as the food and the supplements that you put in your mouth. The other thing that the other emotional aspect of it too is, I remember when I was dealing with my adrenal fatigue, I remember nobody understood what I was going through. Nobody understood, not my family, not my friends, not my ex-husband, and I was told that it was in my head, so I started having anxiety attacks. I had mood swings. I couldn't make it through a day without a nap. We're going to talk about all this stuff. I was drinking probably 600 or 700 milligrams of caffeine a day. I had horrible migraines, and I remember my ex-husband telling me, it's all in your head. If I gave you a sugar pill, you would be fine, because he thought that I was generating or creating this illness. And I used to think, okay, well, I'll try to be happy, and I would change my mindset and I would shift my thoughts, and my body was still sick. And nobody understood. I was having anxiety attacks every day, and nobody understood. They you know, it's all in your head, it's all in your head. Well, yeah, I mean, part of it's in my nervous system, but it's not something that you can necessarily control once your body gets to that shutdown point. And you can't control that. And so when you want help and nobody can help you, the emotional mind trip, and yes, I'm going to swear in this video, so I hope that you're all okay with it, but the emotional mind trip that does to you is horrendous, because where do you go? Where do you turn to? You know, who do you turn to? Who's going to actually help you? And you're going to bounce around from homeopath to naturopath to traditional medicine, acupuncture, all these people to try to help you, and nobody's going to understand the symptoms. They're going to understand the symptoms, but they're not going to understand the origin of the problem. And until we get the information out that this is what's causing it and this is why you're sick, everybody's going to, there are over 200 million people in this world with mystery illnesses that there is no cure for. Just like I posted the chronic fatigue, there's no cure for it. Great, so we have to be sick and tired for the rest of our life until we die? Awesome. Awesome. So I talked about the emotional aspect. I talked about, you know, our home life and how it affects us. Another thing I want to talk about, and this is a super special topic to me, but is the spirituality aspect of it. And a lot of people now are starting to wake up to the fact that we are empathic, that we're highly intuitive, that we are vibrating at a higher level than we used to. In about the 1980s, people started being born what's known as, or being called as, indigo children or rainbow child. And these are basically people that are highly intuitive, they're empathic, they absorb energy, but a lot of them are being labeled as autistic or ADD or having ADHD because they're super sensitive to their environment. And doctors aren't going to, you know, they're not going to recognize that as an illness. It's not something that they can prescribe anything for, as being empathic. So they're just going to numb them down. So, and with prescription drugs. So with your spirituality, when you, and if you guys aren't familiar with Dr. Emoto's work, I will gladly post some information. But basically, Dr. Emoto was a Japanese scientist that started taking pictures of water molecules, and that probably makes sounds familiar to you now. But he would take a picture of he would get a sample of like a lake, and he would take a picture of a frozen water molecule. and the lake water molecule would look dark and kind of morbid and just kind of like a blob under a microscope. And then he would have him and his scientists pray, so give positive affirmations, speak kindly to this lake overnight for an hour or 2 hours. And then he would go in the morning and he would take a sample of the water and he would freeze it and he would look at the molecule under the microscope and it looked like a beautiful snowflake. And so he started doing more and more experiments, and he started taking water that said, I love you, and water that says, I will kill you. And he took pictures of the water molecules side by side and compared them. And the one that had the positive affirmations, the positive frequency, was a beautiful snowflake, and the one that had the negative frequency was a dark, morbid, black-looking spot. And I'll post these on here for you guys to see. But when you think about how much negative self-talk you have during the day and how much of our body is actually made up of water, the negative self-talk and the negative conversation that you have in your mind is actually bringing your vibration down, which is going to make you more sick than you already are. So if you're constantly, and I always tell people, if you were talking to your daughter or your son the way that you talk to yourself in your head, would you be okay with that? And if you think about it, at first it's difficult because you don't realize how much you do it. And I also used to give my clients a timeout chair where I'd say, you can sit in the corner and you can feel sorry for yourself for 15 minutes a day. And then every time outside of that 15 minutes, you have to have a positive mindset. You have to have a good attitude. So when it comes to spirituality, especially if you're empathic or you're sensitive to energy, when you're sick and you don't have help and all of these symptoms are causing you stress, your body is going to react to that in a lower vibration. And when you function at a lower vibration, you're more apt to, attract negative energy, and you're more likely to get sick on top of it. Also, if you are empathic, and if you're unfamiliar with what empathic means, basically it means you absorb energy from others. And we don't typically know, not a lot of people that I work with know that they are empathic until I point it out. So if you are empathic, when you're sick, when you have negative self-talk, or if you're eating things because you're so tired, you're eating things that are bringing your vibrations down, your empathic abilities, your intuitive abilities, and your vibrations are going to lower. So you're not going to be, I don't know what I did. Okay, I'm back. So you're not going to be as spiritual, you're not going to be able to be as intuitive if you are feeding into all those negative or low vibrations. Okay, so one of the first things that we're going to talk about, and we're going to get more into this, do I want to go there first? I have all my notes with me because I want to make sure that I stay on track. So when we talk about the spiritual aspect and we talk about healing, because emotional and spiritual is just as much of a part of healing as the physical aspect of it. When I started looking into emotional healing, first of all, when I started biofeedback about 6 years ago, and that was when I was having the anxiety attacks every day. And biofeedback was the only thing that would knock the anxiety out completely. And again, it's all just energetic frequency. So I started looking into how emotions manifest physically, and if you guys have done any research on this, you know that Louise Hay is she brought emotional healing to the forefront of, the Western world, basically. She's written books on it, but she was really, she was diagnosed with an incurable cervical cancer back in the 60s, I think, and she refused chemo and radiation, and instead she decided that a lot of her, the cancer was actually a cause of sexual abuse that she had experienced when she was younger. And so she started doing affirmations, and she started doing forgiveness prayers and working on forgiving the incident and how she felt around the incident. And she was actually able to cure her cancer, and she's still alive. She's probably 86 or 87, but she's still alive. And so she actually has a lot of information, a lot of affirmations on Pinterest, but she's got about 4 or 5 books out right now. Heal Your Life is one of them, and that's one of the best ones, but they also have Healing A to Z. So when it comes to emotional aspects, and this was what I started studying when I looked into biofeedback and how it could help me in my corrective exercise business, But every muscle or joint or pain inside the body is correlated to a specific emotion or repressed emotion. And so, for example, like your foot and ankle, like if you break your foot or you twist your ankle, you have chronic pain in your feet, that's a symbol of not moving in the right direction. And I know somebody that's watching this that has experienced this. But if you are not on your soul's path, yes, I'm talking to you. If you're not on your soul's path, you're debating on which road you should go down and you haven't made the right decision, your feet are going to hurt. Your right shoulder is all related to financial stress. Your left shoulder is all related to family stress. Your lower back is support. If you're not feeling supported in your relationship, in your career, in your, whatever, not feeling like you have support. Your neck and your neck area is not seeing the bigger picture, not looking at other people's point of view. So all of these, and this goes all the way back to acupuncture. This goes back to Chinese medicine. This has been around for thousands of years. But the concept behind healing where we're at now and correlating all of this stuff together is something that nobody's really working on right now. And there are practitioners that understand pieces of it, but we've got to look at the bigger picture. So in traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture, and there's amazing links on this, but they believe that certain emotions get held in certain organs. And certain organs will cause blocks in other aspects of your life. Kind of like chakras. If you follow the chakra system, the 7 chakra system, each chakra is responsible for emotional symptoms, but also physical symptoms. So in traditional Chinese medicine, when there's too much of a certain emotion, that can block the energy to a certain organ. For example, your liver tends to hold anger. Your gallbladder tends to hold anger. So if you have carried around a lot of anger or a lot of resentment throughout your life, chances are your liver can become stagnant, which can prevent you from flushing out toxins. It can prevent you from losing weight, prevent you from metabolizing your food properly, and lead to a whole bunch of other issues. Kidneys are responsible for fear. If you constantly live in a state of fear, if you're not diving into fear and facing your fears and overcoming these obstacles that you've had throughout your life, your kidneys can become blocked. Your lungs hold grief and sadness. So every organ has a specific function emotionally and vice versa. So if it doesn't matter, what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Well, we don't necessarily know, but we do know that if you have a physical block in your liver, let's just say you're the happiest person in the world, but you drink, a half a bottle of alcohol a day, your liver can become blocked, and that can lead to the feelings of anger. If you are a smoker, or if you do something that damages your lungs, that can lead to more feelings of grief and sadness. So it's kind of tough to determine where it came from, whether it was physical first, but I believe most of it is emotional anyway. So when I do biofeedback, part of healing is looking at the organs to clear the emotion. So if I'm trying to clear anger and anger's not clearing, we can go right to the liver. And there's 20 different areas we have 5 different panels in here with 40 different items each, but there's so many areas that we can look to help you heal physically, along with healing emotionally and spiritually. So the other thing is that when you are living, let me just think about this for a second. Let's just say that by nature you're typically an angry person. Or let's just say that you're not by nature, but for the last 5 years you've been at this job and you hate it. And you get diagnosed with, let's just say thyroid imbalance or Hashimoto's. And if you're trying to heal and you're doing all the right things, you're following the food meal plan, you're taking the right supplements, you're exercising, you're doing yoga, you're seeing your natural path, and you're still not getting better, girlfriend, I don't think I have any guys in here, but let me tell you, if you are not in a safe, healing environment, your body will never heal. If you are stressed on a day-to-day basis, if you're in a toxic relationship, if you are at work and your coworkers are constantly bitching and they're constantly complaining about how much they hate their job and they can't wait to quit and all this stuff, if you are constantly in a low-vibing, negative, crappy, unhealthy, toxic environment, It does not matter what you do to heal. Your body will never get better. You have to change your environment. And that leads into stress. And if you are constantly stressed, constantly negative, constantly, and I don't know if you're in a relationship with somebody that's, abusive, emotionally, sexually, physically, doesn't matter how much you're doing for your body, you will not heal. And I experienced this in my first marriage. No matter what I did, I couldn't heal. And then as soon as I left, night and day, all of my symptoms, like 2 months, all of my gut issues, my anxiety, my tightness in my chest, like all of the symptoms that I had were gone because that toxic environment and that environmental stress was gone. And I'm not saying to leave your husband. However, evaluate your situation. And if there's something that you can do to change it, I suggest you try to change it, because no matter what you do, if your environment is not healthy, you cannot be healthy. I'm going to do a video probably on just my regular Facebook page about how happiness is not a state of mind, because I have tried. I did the whole, I'm happy, I'm good, writing down gratitude and all the things that I'm happy for and all the things I'm thankful for. And that's only going to get you so far when it comes to healing, I promise. So when we talk about stress and we talk about, stressful environments, I want you guys to understand tomorrow, we are going to talk about silent killer number 1, which little sneak peek is actually going to be stress. 90% of illness and disease, 90% of illness and diseases are caused by oxidative stress. Now, stress can come in many forms. It can be emotional, it can be physical, it can be environmental. It can be microwave radiations, electromagnetic frequencies, or EMFs. It doesn't matter. Whatever the foods that we're eating, GMOs, pesticides, you name it, anything can be a stressor on us. So how we respond to our stressors is what's important. Now, typically, if you guys remember back to like high school, you've probably heard the term of fight or flight. Well, fight or flight is basically your sympathetic nervous system taking over and preparing you for survival mode. So if back in the day when we were hunters and gatherers and we were out, poking around looking for something to eat, and all of a sudden there's a lion and they're chasing us, our body has to respond to, I'm still getting requests to have people join. Our body is going to respond to being chased by a lion. So we have to be able to run faster, jump higher, and breathe more full of, fill up our lungs with oxygen in order to survive. But during that process, it actually utilizes all of our resources, and it ends up basically using them all up. But back then we were only supposed to do it once a week or once every 10 days or whatever the case may be, even once a day. But now we're having that same kind of stress response when our ex-boyfriend calls us on the phone, or when we go to the store and, somebody cuts us in line or somebody cuts us in the car. So the reality of it is this survival mode, this fight or flight mode that we were only supposed to use as a worst case scenario is being utilized 40 to 50 times a day. We fight with our boyfriend. Our kids don't listen. Somebody pisses us off on Facebook, or they don't agree with our political views. We're getting so worked up about everybody else's bullshit that we are creating this own fight or flight response inside our body. So I want you guys to think about, and this is going to be the assignment today, I'm not quite there yet, but I want you guys to think about, what time is it? Just after 10? I want you guys to think about how your stress levels have affected you physically. So if you think about, December, in December I got in a really bad car accident and there was this whole lawsuit and I had to deal with this and this and this. And then all of a sudden in January, I started having digestive issues and I was constipated, and then I was told I had leaky gut, and now I can't eat wheat or this or that or this or that. And that's going to be part of the assignment today. But when we're stressed, our body creates that sickness response. If we don't have the proper storage to provide that fight or flight response correctly, then we become depleted. So when you have that stress cycle over and over again, and we're going to talk about this more tomorrow, you'll notice a pattern of sickness following stress. So the other thing with stress that happens too is our digestion shuts down. If we're in a fight or flight state, the sympathetic nervous system turns off our immune system and our digestion, because those aren't necessary for survival. We don't need to be breaking down that, deer meat we just ate while we're running from a lion. No, it's just going to shut off your digestion. So if you're in a constant fight or flight state, constant sympathetic nervous system state, you can't digest your food, you can't break it down properly, and you're going to end up developing digestive issues. So I don't know, have you guys ever been sick to your stomach when you get stressed, or you get bad news and you just get sick to your stomach, or you can't eat, or you just don't have an appetite, or when you do, it just sits like a rock in your stomach? It's because your digestion has been shut down. One of the best tips that I can tell you for that is, don't ever eat on the run, don't ever eat when you're stressed, and when you have time to eat, sit down, take a deep breath, in your nose, out your mouth, calm yourself down, come out of that fight or flight state, be thankful for the food that you're going to eat, and have a nice sit down meal. But don't, hurry up, I got to eat, driving in the car, talking on the phone, everything. We live such a fast paced life now. If you want your digestion to take place properly, you have to kick in that parasympathetic nervous system. Eat poorly. Oh, and that's the other thing when we're stressed, is we tend to eat worse because we're stressed. And I always tell people, like, when you're stressed, that's the time you need it the most, but we quit working out because we're so stressed. And those are the times that you need it the most. You need that energy to be expended through some sort of physical activity. So even going for a walk, or going to take a spinning class at the gym, or just moving, doing something, playing with your kids to get that adrenaline store out of your body. I can't wait to talk about stress tomorrow. I'm a stress coach, and that's kind of like my thing, but there's so much information that I want to tell you guys. I'm excited about all of it. I seriously, I couldn't wait. I was just excited as excited as you guys were about it. So I just want to make sure that I covered everything that I want. One of the biggest things that I just wanted to point out, I know that I did the disclaimer in the beginning, but in my opinion, a good practitioner is going to look at every area of your life. It's going to look at your childhood. It's going to look at, with biofeedback, we have something called age stressors, and age stressors actually show us times in your life where your body was the most stressed, all the way back to conception and first, second, and third trimester while you were in your mother's womb. So the experiences and the emotions that your mother experienced while she was pregnant with you can actually carry on to you as a baby. So you can be born with anger or grief or feelings of abandonment, even though you haven't ever experienced that, because they're not your emotions. So when we look for practitioners, we're really looking for practitioners that can look at our entire life journey and say, okay, well, I'm sure that you have a lot of this going on. I'm sure that you have a lot of that going on, but it's going to address your body mentally, physically, and spiritually and emotionally. And that is hard to find in a practitioner, but there are people that, there's a little bit, there's acupuncture here, massage therapy here, chiropractor here, homeopath here. There's a little bit of everything everywhere. So you can definitely find people. I'm going to actually be introducing Maureen in this group. She's a nurse practitioner. She has her own practice in New Hampshire. But her and I found this information at about the same time, and we've both been on this crazy roller coaster of journey with healing. And so we're both really excited to share it with you. But, we want a practitioner that's going to evaluate all aspects of our life, not just the physical, not just prescribe us a medication or say, here, take this supplement, and you'll feel better. We've got to get to the root of the problem. And, one of the things that's really sad for me is, when we talk about our environment and our stress levels, these children now are being, and, unfortunately mine included, but these children are being born into environments that they have no control over. And, whether it's through divorce or whether it's through abusive relationships or sickness of their own, I mean, these poor children don't have any say or control over their environment. So we have to be the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be for them, because we need to be able to help them heal. You guys, in 20 years, our generation, if we don't get our shit together with our food and the crap, the pesticides and the GMOs and the quality of the crap that we're giving our children, our kids are going to be in what do they call them? Not mental health facilities, but like senior care facilities by the time they're 50, because they're going to have no freaking brain cells left. Even now, our generation, I'm 33, and our generation, I'd be surprised if we make it to 50, like before we're in dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's, all the artificial sweeteners and the energy drinks, and I mean, it's killing our brain cells. So we need to be able to control our environment for our children and provide them with the safest, most positive environment that we can. And that's really important. So with that said, I am going to wrap up the day 1, and I'm going to finish with a call to action. So here is the assignment for this week, for today. I'm going to, if you haven't already, put your email either in this video or you can put it in the post that I posted about putting your email for the assignment. But the assignment for today is probably going to be the only emotionally challenging assignment that I give you. And I want you to approach it with love, and I want you to approach it with gratitude, because we need to honor where we're at. We need to honor where we've been. So the assignment for today, it sounds very easy, but when you start doing it, you're going to see what I mean. Okay. So the assignment today is basically a sickness timeline. Okay. And I think I put 4 or 5 pages on there. It might come as a shock to you, but I don't usually talk for this long straight. The assignment for today is a timeline. Now, I put 4 or 5 pages on there because I want you guys to have enough room. And if you want to just write it out on a big piece of paper, I'm totally fine with that. It doesn't matter how you do it. I'm a visual person, so I like to see things lined up. But the sickness timeline is something that's going to go back as far back as you can remember. And this will have purpose when we look at tomorrow's and Wednesday's video, because we're going to refer back to it a couple of times. So for me, as far back as I can remember, I know that when my parents didn't get married until I was 3 months old, and I know that there were probably some like insecurities or fears that my mom carried during her pregnancy with me, and I also know that I've carried those fears into my life, which I've worked on, fortunately. And so I know as far back as conception and pregnancy. I also know that when I was 2, I was dropped on my head. I wasn't actually dropped. I kind of like took a dive off of a tailgate while my dad bent over to pick up a diaper. I went boop, and I hit my head really hard, and they had to take me to the hospital. And I also know that I had a ton of ear infections. I was always sick with ear infections. I know that when I was 9, I had a knee injury. I also know that I had a fever so bad that I hallucinated, and I actually saw, and I don't know if it was a hallucination or a spiritual experience, but I saw an image in my bedroom coming towards me. I know that when I was 12, I had some emotional issues. I know that when I was 14, I dealt with a really horrible breakup that led into a really serious case of mono. I had mono for 6 months when I was 16. When I was 17, I was so sick. I remember them testing me for HIV because I wasn't getting better. I was sick for 7 months. I was on 3 different steroids. Back then we didn't know what else to do, but I knew something wasn't right. And turned out I was allergic to dust mites. And then I moved 3,000 miles away for college. I had sexual abuse experiences in college. And then I started having all these hormonal imbalances and these thyroid issues and all of these symptoms that are what we're going to talk about in the mystery illnesses. And nobody had answers for me. And then I got into a relationship that was extremely toxic. I was in that relationship for 9 years, and that led to more of my sickness. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to write out a timeline of your physical symptoms or your physical sickness, and then also your emotional traumas around that sickness. And we're going to review them. Obviously, we're not going to review them as a group. You're not going to have to like call it out or anything. But it might be kind of tough on you emotionally, because when you go through these, it's going to bring up a lot of emotions of, like when I was sick for 7 months, that was my senior year in high school. I couldn't go out. I wasn't doing anything. All I did was work out, eat clean, and work at the gym, because I've always worked in gyms. So I want you guys to write it down. Ask your family, ask your friends, ask your brother or sister, do you ever remember anything traumatic? This isn't, and I definitely can get into some of this in biofeedback, but this isn't I don't want this to become like, oh my gosh, I realized I was sexually abused when I was 4. We're not there yet. We'll get there, but we're not there yet. So I want you guys to definitely reach out to me if you have any epiphanies, if you have any experiences that you want to ask me questions about, if you're curious about anything. And then at the end of the course, you'll be able to connect the dots and you'll be able to kind of look at it and say, oh, well, that makes sense. You're going to think about stressors like moving, changing schools, divorce of your parents, new relationships of your parents that were stressful or challenging, your own divorces, your own separations, your own breakups, and not necessarily like huge ones. Just try to think about things that may have caused stress that would have led to any sort of sickness. Loss of job, injury, surgery, broke your arm, broke your wrist, broke your shin, whatever, like any type of hospital stays, any type of sicknesses, any vaccine injuries. If you got a shot and then 2 weeks later you had a really bad reaction, anything like that. And then at the end of the timeline, I actually put a prayer in there for you guys. Now, I want you guys to be totally open. I am not a religious person. I'm highly spiritual. I pray to God, God's guide, angels, and universe. So you can pray to whoever your little heart desires. I put all of those titles on there because that's who I pray to. I think angels have their own purpose, guides have their own purpose, God has his own purpose, and the universe has its own purpose. And that's my belief. And I love and I honor your beliefs too. So at the end of the assignment, there is a prayer there for you. Please just say it, feel it, love it, honor it, and just know that this is part of the process, and I'm totally here for you. I'll answer any questions that I can, and we're going to connect the dots, and we're going to get to the bottom of this, and I'm going to help you guys in any way that I possibly can. So I love you all. I'm so thankful that you were able to join me, and please feel free to share this with your friends. We're going to start getting into the real nitty-gritty of the course tomorrow. Day 2 is all about silent killer number 1, and we're going to talk about stress. So, all right, I hope you guys have a wonderful Monday, and please feel free to share this with any friends that you think this might help. All right, bye.